Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Heart Centered Therapist podcast. I'm your host, Sindee Gozansky, and today I am delighted to bring you my guest from New York, Alyse Freda-Colon. Alyse is a therapist in private practice in New York. She works with women who are ready to prioritize their own needs, take control of their lives, and quiet down all the noise in their head. She also does individual and group coaching with women around dating in a program titled Stop Dating Assholes. And she has a program titled Are You Mad at Me? To help women stop overthinking and start living boldly. And she's been known to inspire a therapist or two to create the private practice they have always wanted but never thought possible. This is going to be such an exciting show. Alyse, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. Great to be here.
Yes, thank you. Wow, there's a lot here, and we've already made the episode not clean by the title of your dating program, which I love. We're going to talk about dating because you know what? Therapists are always asking about dating, both for themselves, and then we deal with it with our clients so much too, right?
Absolutely. It comes up constantly, which is one of the reasons I created a program.
Yes, you looked for the need. That's great. Yes. I always start with the question about being heart-centered. So let's begin there. What does being a heart-centered therapist mean to you?
For me, it means showing up authentically and being exactly who I am in the room with clients. And when I was in graduate school, it was very much the idea of therapist needs to be a blank slate. You can't let anyone know anything about you, never answer a question. It was this very phony, contrived, like kind of you need to pretend that you are not a real person. And I think that there's been a kind of an evolution in the field since then, which is fantastic, where we are more able to show up as who we are and use that to help our clients, as opposed to pretending that we're just blank.
Yeah, it doesn't help if we're fake as the therapist.
Agreed. I remember when I was in grad school going to see a therapist myself, wanting to be on the other side of the couch and asking the therapist, there was a book that he had, and I said, "Oh, how did you like that book?" And he wouldn't answer. He was saying, like, "Well, what makes you ask that?" And, "Well,
Oof.
why would you?" I'm like, "Oh my gosh, can we just have a conversation, or does everything have to be picked apart and analyzed?" And I remember feeling like, "Yeah, I don't like that. I don't want to be like that." So I think for me, being heart-centered is this is who I am. I bring that to all my interactions with all my clients and all my sessions. And I find it to be helpful. And I can't imagine not showing up as me.
Yeah, yeah. That's going to help so many people, and especially some of the newer, younger therapists just getting started, because I think it still is taught in school, some of this blank slate notion. And so giving that permission that it's important to be authentic.
Yeah, it's
Thank you
okay
for
to be
that.
who you are, right? Yes, I give everyone permission. Be who you are.
Love it. Love it. So Elisa's given you permission for that. And you know what? You are pretty much who you are, I can tell, which is awesome and beautiful. So thank you. Share with us a little about your journey because I think that's a great way to set the tone for then learning more about the dating program that evolved out of changing your private practice. So you have a story around like beginning your private practice and self-care and seeing too many clients and self-sacrificing and doing all of that to creating a practice that was sustainable and aligned for your life. And we need to know how to do this as therapists in private practice.
So the message was sort of uh, given to therapists in training that you need to sacrifice yourself, that your clients are the most important thing, your needs don't really matter. Uh, if I had a nickel for every time I heard a colleague say, "Well, I don't do this for the money," with a like a pride in um, earning pittance or not being able to support their family. It's kind of crazy actually that you don't hear of many other fields where they take pride in charging very, very low fees or not charging at all. And I think that it's like the culture is sort of, you should sacrifice yourself and don't think about yourself because that makes you selfish or greedy, and that you can't do good work and take care of yourself simultaneously, which I have come to vehemently disagree with.
Mhm.
And I would actually argue that when you set up your practice up to take care of you and support your life, and you feel great and not resentful that you do better work, I absolutely feel like the level of my clinical work has really um, risen as a result of not feeling resentful, of not having uh, given someone a very, very low fee and then listen to them talk about going to Europe for 3 weeks. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, I can't even pay my bills, right?
Mm,
So
right.
therapists have to take care of themselves.
Yes, yes. You said a therapist who takes care of herself is a better therapist. And there, in so many ways, that's true, not just monetarily, but also how we perceive of ourselves, how we feel about our practice, the types of clients that we attract. So, yes, how do we do this? How do we create a more aligned practice?
Well, I can tell you that when I first got into practice, there was no kind of guidebook that didn't, I'm going to give away my age here, but like the internet wasn't even really a thing. Uh, so you sort of figured it out by asking your friends, like, hey, how do you do so and so? How do you know how much to charge? And everything was sort of put together very haphazardly and as you went. There was no formula to follow.
Mhm.
So I used to have the mindset that if someone called me, it was my job to figure out how to see them. Don't ask me where I got this. I don't know. But that was kind of the mindset. So someone would call, and if they, let's say they were not going to go through insurance, if I said what my fee was, it was really with a question mark at the end, and it was very, very much open for I think I would probably even say, but if you can't do that, let me know what you can afford, and then we'll work something out.
Mhm.
Um, and it was such a bad way to be in business because it's not sustainable. And as a solo practitioner, you don't have the ability to be sliding scale fees all over the place because who is making up that income? You're not being funded by an organization. This is just you, and you have overhead, and you have insurance and CEUs and all of that. But we sort of, maybe because we're not taught business. It's kind of a dirty word in this
Right.
field often.
Yeah, yeah. And Elise, I know you also work with a lot of women and coach women. And in some ways, and I think this bears out probably from your experience too, usually it's women who will do that. Almost like reminds me of your other program, Are You Mad at Me? Like women will do that, like, oh, we don't want to upset the client, right? We've got to kind of make sure we're pleasing everybody. And I don't think male therapists do this as much.
Interesting. I'd be interested to check that out. That
Yeah.
that that sounds like it might be correct.
Mm-hmm.
Women do a
Mm-hmm.
lot more apologizing for themselves, as far as I can.
Yes. Women do a lot more apologizing. Mhm. Right. And then we're in a more relational field, right? In this almost, as you say, apologetic field where we're supposed to just work for a pittance or in some philosophies, I mean, not all across the board, to be fair. But yeah, so we have to support our needs. This is a long journey. And what I love is that you said, I'm such a better clinician. Like you work at a higher level and you have a lot of experience, probably over 20 years experience. And this is amazing to say. And I still love what I do clinically, therapeutically. And I'm still like getting better at it with my model of practice now.
1000%. Because you can kid yourself into saying, oh, it's okay that I'm not making enough to get by. Um, I'm doing good work, and it's okay because I didn't get in this for the money. But you are kidding yourself if you think that there is not going to be some resentment that creeps in, whether or not you're aware of it. But if you feel that you are not getting what you need, then how are you showing up fully for the people who need you. There's
Right.
something really amazing about making the decision about how you need your practice to function and not asking permission from anyone. But this is how this works. I invite you to join me if you would like. You don't have to, and there are some people who won't, and that's fine.
Mhm.
But your job is not to make everybody happy um, or to set your fee where somebody asks you to. And again, what other field? Can you imagine calling a cardiologist and saying, I don't really like that fee. I'd like to pay less. I mean, could you imagine?
Yeah.
No.
No, I mean, I'm racking my brain. Really, there's no other field.
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
And why is that? How did we get here? I don't know.
Yeah. So you kind of jumped to my next question, which is actually how you are assertive and you explain yourself, right? These are non-negotiables that you decide will work for a more sustainable, aligned practice for, your own well-being and your own lifestyle, and you call it non-negotiables. And so again, sometimes we're like, "Oh, we don't even know how to hold that boundary," whether it's setting policies, setting hours, setting session lengths, and so on. And so communicating this to our clients, I think if you could talk about that, that's going to help so many therapists out there.
I think that it starts with, first of all, thinking about it. Okay. What do I need for my practice? Put everything else aside. How many days a week do I want to work? How many clients do I want to see a day? How much do I need to be making to live the life that I want to live, to have my bills covered, to be able to go on vacation, whatever it is that you need? Start there. What do I need? And what do I want my practice to look like? What kind of a cancellation policy do I want? Not making decisions out of fear of how someone might react, but just what would work for you. And there's a process to go through to figure this out. But once you do, you need to work on owning it, right? And these are my policies. Where I'm not negotiating. This is not up for debate. This is the policy. And no one's holding a gun to anyone's head. You don't have to come and see. You don't have to work with me. And I'm not going to be the right fit for everyone, nor do I have the time, space, or desire to work with everyone who calls.
Hmm.
So you don't have to please everybody. You don't have to accommodate everyone. You have to do what is right for you in your life. And the right clients will be attracted to that.
Yes.
And we model, I think, also how to set boundaries, limits, how to advocate for ourselves, which is all really important stuff for our clients to see as well.
Yeah, yeah. It really strikes me, and I can't remember if it's Jay Haley or Erickson, but like that notion of my voice will go with you. And this is what I wish for the listeners, right? To have Alyse, your voice saying, "You don't have to work with me. These are my boundaries. This isn't up for debate." Like, just it have that voice go with you as you're responding to inquiries or holding up your cancellation policy. That's so great.
I used to be on lots of insurances and it was so dysfunctional and they would just deny claims for no reason. And then I didn't have a secretary. I'd have to spend hours calling and fighting with them. And what happened was one day I got a letter from an insurance company saying, we're denying claims for these two clients for 2 months, whatever. We're not paying you because we don't think it was necessary. I'm like, I'm done. That's it. I'm out.
Mm,
I disenrolled from every insurance, but the same day I wrote a letter to
wow.
every insurance plan. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. And it was scary because,
Yes.
like most therapists, my fear is I'm going to get off insurance and every single person will leave. My practice will be nothing, which doesn't happen. It didn't happen.
It didn't.
It didn't. No, no, it didn't happen. I'm going to say there were some people who left, absolutely. But what happened more often than not, which shocked me, was I would say, I'm not going to be taking insurance anymore. As of this date, this is going to be my fee. And people would say, okay. So anyway, and then this is what I've been freaking myself out about all this time.
Right. Because they needed therapy with you. They wanted it. People pay for what they want.
I had one client actually say to me, well, it's about time. I'm like,
Oh,
oh my goodness. You knew I needed to do this before I realized it, you know?
yeah. Well, they know how confusing it is for them too, and um, I understand. My practice still takes insurance, and I came home in a panic today about another issue, and it never ends, but that's part of it.
It is. And if you're a therapist and you choose to work with, okay, but make it a deliberate choice that you've
Mhm.
made because of whatever reasons you've decided that's what you want to do. You
Yeah.
just don't want, I believe, you don't want to be making your practice decisions out of fear or what if.
Exactly. And that's something that I talk about too, right? How we, as heart center therapists, lead with love. And so we're leading even in this creation of our practice and our work lives with love. And it's a great example. We do it intentionally, right? For me, it works. We take a combination insurance and self pay. And there's an intentionality behind it. And same for you. And I think the therapists often forget about loving themselves in the process, which is what's so great about having you on as a guest and sharing this self-care and really self-nourishment, like at a big level, Elise.
Yeah, and this, I think it goes for, whatever your fees you set, how many hours you work, how many clients you take on at a time, whatever the decisions are that you make. I can't stress this enough. You have to own it. And funny, recently, someone called and they were interested in seeing me. I always say right up front, um, I just want to make sure you're aware, I don't take insurance, my session fee. And the woman said, "Ah, no, but I have good insurance." I said, okay, I don't take insurance. And she couldn't wrap her head around, but but that doesn't make any sense. Why wouldn't you? And in the past, I might have been like, oh, and trying to explain it. But I was thinking, why are you questioning this? Doesn't work for you clearly. I said, no, I don't take insurance. I'd be happy to refer you to a therapist who does take your insurance. But I could see very clearly how a prior version of me might have been shaken by that and felt like I needed to apologize for the fee I had set. And this was the complete opposite of that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's your more evolved self. But this is such a great example of practical advice for us, right? If somebody wants to do just that, you just said how to respond in the inquiry, right? I want to tell you right up front, I don't take insurance. Are there any other tidbits like that? I guess maybe it's the same thing. I want to tell you right up front, I don't work after 3 p.m. Like maybe there's something like that.
Anything that you think, or that has, what I don't want to do is I don't want someone to start pouring their heart out and then me to say, oh, I'm sorry. Like, let's get the stuff out of the way that would be, reasons for us not to work together, right? Whether, yeah, I only work during the week or I only work during the morning hours or whatever. And make sure that it's almost like a level, like make sure that that works for them. So if someone says, oh no, I didn't realize you didn't take insurance and I would like to go through my insurance, then sometimes I'll even log on to Psychology Today and I'll plug it in and I'll give them some names or explain to them how they can navigate that. I'm just not the right fit for that, right? Um, but again, you have to own it. So the advice to
Yeah.
therapists, especially people starting out, is save yourself a lot of headaches. Set it up the way you want it from the beginning, as opposed to having to undo things that don't work for you that, yeah, were never a great idea in the beginning for you.
Mhm, mhm. That's beautiful. Right. And that's advice that is really a message for anybody starting their private practice, right? Set it up the way you want it from the beginning. That's gold right there. And Elise gave you some really great scripts that you can use. So rewind and check those out. Um, yeah. So let's shift a little bit because I think this helps us understand some of our um, impulses that we have when we're in relationships, right? Whether it's with clients or with partners. And so, tell us what inspired you to start coaching women about dating.
Well, having done this work for a long time, I found that I was hearing a lot of similar stories, complaints from women dating. And I was thinking in my mind, like, I want to write a little handbook or something. Like, I want to say, you know what? Let me just save you some time here. That's a bad, no, that's a red flag. You don't want to go down that road. Here's how it's going to go. So I started putting the course together really from the women who I'd been listening to all these years.
Mm.
There are so many similar themes. Women dating potential instead of the person, dating projects where it's like, oh, well, he's good. I'm just going to have him change these few things about himself and then we'll be good to go. Ignoring things that are deal breakers right from the outset because I'm getting older and I really need to find someone. So let's just move this along. Um, so I kind of pulled that all together to be able to kind of almost like a little guidebook of like, okay, if you want to date, here's a really good way to
Mhm.
proceed where you are going to do it in a smart and well thought out way.
I love that. If anybody's squirming out there, it's okay. Because we've all done this. I think that's part of it too, right? The experience is so universal sometimes, in the sense of those apologies we make or the situations we put up with, and um, you're all about changing that. So, for for instance, what are some of these patterns, right? Like you mentioned these common things, but like patterns that you've seen the women in the dating situations do.
Ignoring their own gut feelings, sometimes not even being in touch with it. What I'll see a lot, I'm on a lot of these like online Facebook groups and things with people who are dating just to kind of, see what are the struggles they're having. And I'm telling you on a daily basis, someone will post something where it's like, okay, so my boyfriend did that. You already know they're asking, please tell me that this is not so bad. And you read it and you're like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? And you're looking for someone else to say you're not crazy for feeling this way. You know there's something wrong. That is why you're going on to this group and posting this. Why can't we trust what we feel or what we think without having to get a chorus of voices to sign off on it?
Mhm.
And whether that is not trusting your gut or not wanting to see what's in front of you or looking for permission to stay in a relationship that's toxic or unsatisfying, because so much of it is about the fear of if I end this, I have to start again. I
Yeah.
was supposed to be married already. I'm behind schedule as it is. So there's a lot of that going on.
Yeah. Yeah. And we make a lot of excuses too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was talking to someone interesting recently who was saying, I went on 2 dates with someone and I really liked him, um, but I haven't heard from him in a week. So I was thinking I was going to text him and let him know that you need to contact me more frequently and we need to work on your communications. And I'm saying, okay, what if you did nothing? What if you stepped back? This is all data gathering.
Yeah.
Didn't text you for a week. You need to see that and not try and fix it or convince him that he needs to be better at texting, but to acknowledge he did not text you for a week. He was willing to let you go a week or more without hearing from him. What does that say to you? But sometimes that's so uncomfortable that it's like, oh no, let me just let him know so that he can fix it, so that I don't have to end this, or so that I can keep going, right? And that
Right.
fear drives the behavior.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. I'm super interested in this because I'm also a couples therapist and really just fascinated with relationships. And especially, I've always thought about like, how can we also be coaches in that relational world as therapists? Because we do have so much experience professionally, right? As well as personally. Um, and so, even describing that, right? Like, he didn't even text me for a week, helping that woman uphold her standards. A lot of times I use that language like, are those your standards? Like, is once a week okay? If that's cool, great, but probably not. And we drop our standards way too much, or we don't even know what they are. I find a lot of times clients don't even know what their standards are. Um,
Absolutely. One of the things that I do that I consider most important is having, I work more so with women, have them write down a list of here are my absolute must haves, 5 to 10 things. The number of women who've never thought about this is amazing. Then your would be nice to have, not essential, maybe a height requirement, whatever. Like, would be
right.
nice, but it's not going to be a deal. And then the deal breakers. But, years ago, I did this with a woman and her list was like, must love football, things like that. I'm like, I
Mhm.
see nothing about honesty. I see nothing about supporting you emotionally, nothing. There was
Yeah.
all more superficial sort
Right.
of things. Is it really the most important thing on your list that this person likes football? And that, if so, we need to talk about that because all of the qualities that you might be looking for in a partner, none of them are listed here, right?
Yeah.
So you have to be aware of what you're looking for and what you absolutely don't want to know when you see it either way, right?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And values, that's so important. And all of this makes me think, I mean, I was kind of a junkie watching the show Indian Matchmaker and with Auntie Seema. I don't know if you've seen that, but I think about the preferences and then, and she would be so wonderful, right? So confrontative too. Like you have to like let go a little bit on the height or something like that, or also, the Jewish Matchmaker show with Alyse Freda-Colon is amazing, right? And so these matchmaking um, shows are so much about like self-esteem and confidence and standards and understanding yourself and your identity as you try to match with a partner.
Yeah, when you talk about standards or people say, oh, I just need to lower my expectations, or okay, so let's look at that, right? If it's, I remember once a woman said to me, I met this guy at a restaurant. I didn't like his haircut. Wait a second. Hold on. You're going to rule him out because of his haircut? To me, that seems much more superficial. And I'll even see women who are like, "Oh, let me show you these guys I match," and they're swiping on their phone, just like that's a person. That's a person. Nope, 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 nope. It's all so superficial. Like, how photogenic is this person? What if there's a great guy who doesn't take a great picture? Right?
Mm,
I mean, you're not
yeah,
looking at them as people. It's just there's this idea that there's an endless supply fed by the dating apps, endless supply of eligible people. So keep looking and you'll find somebody better than the last one, which I think is detrimental overall in relationships. You
yeah,
got to give somewhere.
right. You give a lot of hope, right? I'm already hearing so much hope in the way you talk about this. Like what if that guy just took a bad picture? Many people don't even think that, right? That gives so much hope. Like, oh, yeah, maybe I've taken a bad picture. Why not?
Yeah, or not photogenic, or not as attractive as you would like, or has a
Mhm.
different hair color than you think you'd like. Okay, but again, back to the standards, where are you going to rank that on your list? And it's important to really think about that because you want some beautiful man who lies to you and treats you like crap.
Yeah.
Would that be a fair trade-off? Okay, and if you say yes, good luck. Good luck.
Mhm.
But for most people, they sort of take for granted. Well, of course it would need to be on. Well, of course it would need to be, but don't take that for granted. Those are the qualities. So let's put those on the list and then see where these other things that are more about looks or height or what their job is or whatever, maybe it doesn't rank as high now because you have other things to sort of compare it to. It's
Yeah.
crucial.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so you've done more than one iteration of this group coaching program, Stop Dating Assholes. Tell us a little bit about like what that program entails and also like I'd love to hear a success story of somebody who like changed her dating behaviors.
Well, we kind of do an analysis of some of your past relationships and where, like, kind of where things went off the rails. And I want women to see what their, not in a blaming sort of way, what was their role in the demise of any of these relationships? Be that their own behavior, they're not seeing things that were there, because very often we see the signs or we see warning red flags and we don't want to see them. So we kind of push them out of the way. Yeah, but
Yeah.
so you need to look at that. So we do kind of an analysis of their past relationships to get clear also on what are the patterns of people that they're attracted to or attracting, and is that what they ultimately want? One of the things I will hear from women very often is, "I'm just a magnet for bad boys. I can't help it." What is it about that kind of often emotionally
Mhm.
unavailable sort of man? What is it about that that draws you in? Because if you don't stop to consider that and do some work around that, you're likely to keep going after the same kinds of guys.
Yeah.
So we do that. We get very clear on the deal breakers and on the must-haves. And I have the women, if at all possible, go out on an actual date and let's put some of the work that we're doing into practice.
Wow.
It's interesting too when you start dating. I love that when I'm working with someone and they meet someone like, okay,
Mhm.
yeah, let's do this.
Yes, right.
Any red flags, any orange flags, let's anything that was like, I didn't love, he did this, I didn't love it. Okay, let's
Mhm.
make a note of it. Maybe it's not a deal breaker, but okay,
Right.
noted. Um, and the last program that I ran, one of the young women had a hookup guy. He didn't want a relationship, and she
Mhm.
was saying, "Well, this is okay until something better comes along, right?" And so we did work around what she was settling for, and really that she was kidding herself. If you think that you are fully um, dating or looking to date when you're already over here with this guy, you're not, because your attention is over here. So if you want to find a relationship that is mutually beneficial and reciprocal, you can't be in this at the same time. You need to, almost like you can't be having an affair and be in marriage counseling. There's an extra person in this equation.
Right.
So,
Right. And you're not available. She's not making herself available to date the better person.
exactly. And that had honestly never occurred to her. She figured it was just something to occupy her in her downtime. And she said, wow, that was huge. It's like, I'm not settled. No, I want someone who actually wants me and wants to go on a date with me, not just come over at 11 o'clock at night.
Mhm.
So being able to see that sort of change is like, oh,
Yeah.
so gratifying.
Yeah. Oh, you're so cool, Elise. This is awesome. You're kind of like also like the matchmaking coach because then the women come into your office or your virtual office and unpack the date with you. Like that's really fun work and important, right? Because you're changing lives out there, right? You're creating like space for happy couples. That's beautiful.
Yeah, and women will be very, I mean, I hear this every week from someone. I have to hurry up. I don't want to waste time. I thought I would have met someone by now, and I want to have kids, and then uh, so it's almost counterintuitive though that to sort of settle or to continue in a relationship that clearly is not what you're looking for, that is wasting more time than getting out of that to find someone who's a more viable partner for you long term. But it's that fear of almost like, I've invested whatever, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 months. I don't want to have to start over. So I got to figure out how to make this work
Yeah.
unilaterally, by the way, very often.
Right. Right. I love how you tell it like it is. That's great.
Yeah.
Have you seen anything because I know in a lot of the therapist Facebook groups, right? There are posts where therapists will say like, "How on earth do I date? It's difficult as a therapist." There are like little nuances and things, or how do I get on a dating app even? And then what if clients start seeing me like, so what would you say to therapists who really are trying to date and enter that space?
That's a tough one. I really don't have a lot of experience with that. Uh, I have heard people say that, like, what am I supposed to do? And then there are some who say, well, you really can't be dating anywhere near where you practice because it's not fair. Which that also doesn't sound right to me that you, again, self-sacrificing, like you shouldn't have to not date because you're a therapist.
Mhm.
That would be awkward. Matching with a client. Okay. Maybe that's a, I don't know, maybe that's a some great clinical material. If the therapist matches with the client that could be discussed at the next session. Obviously, they're not going to date, but
Right.
I don't know, maybe you date the way anyone else would, and should that happen, you deal with it.
Mhm. Mhm.
Maybe. But I don't know.
Right.
Again, I don't have a lot of experience with that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's fun to just put out there and to think about, and any listeners, feel free to DM me on Instagram at Heart Centered Therapist if you have some ideas or experiences, because I think this would be really a fun topic to explore some more. It's important, and it goes to that authenticity, right? We should be able to be authentic as therapists and as humans.
Mhm.
And where are these rules coming from?
Right. My practice is in the same town where I live. So
Mhm.
whenever I meet with someone new, I say, look, you may see me at the grocery store, you may see whatever, and I will generally just smile as I would to anybody, or sometimes give a little wink, like, because it feels weird to me to ignore somebody standing, like, if I see them, I'm not going to go up and talk to them and say, hey, look, this is my client. But I kind of give them the heads up, like, I'm out in the world and you may see me, and that's okay. You are always free to come talk to me or disclose to anyone who what our relationship is. It's a one-way confidentiality. I can't do it, but you're
Right.
free to do whatever you want. And most people, I I tell everybody about my therapist, and they
Oh,
really announce, oh, really? It's so different. When
yeah.
I started in the field, there was such a stigma, and it was like this hush hush thing to go to therapy.
Right.
And now it's like very chic, like what my therapist says. So it's
Right.
like
Or
really
that's my therapist. Yeah.
exactly, exact. People have done that. It happened
Mhm.
in a department store once, That's my therapist is here. I'm like, oh my gosh.
That's awesome. I love it.
Adorable, but
Yeah.
so we live in the world, and that is okay. We're not doing anything wrong.
Right. Right. Yeah. And I think it's also like that natural part of being human. I'll say like, "Oh, right." Just like if you might see me around, or I'm friendly and might say hi, right? Because I might forget. I mean, forget in the sense of just saying hi. Like there's nothing wrong with that. Come on. So, I mean, I think it's really just um trying to figure out how we hold our confidentiality and our boundaries, but also live our lives, breathe the same air, shop in the same grocery store.
Right. And it's a weird kind of dynamic. It's almost almost like not an affair, but almost like you have this intimate relationship with someone that's a secret from everyone else in your life, right? Which is like a weird thing where you can't talk about it, but you know this person so well. And there's like a certain level of discomfort, I think, for many therapists with that, because it feels weird, especially when you have a really good rapport with someone. And I often feel like the clients that I have so much success with are people I would hang out with if I met under different circumstances. I feel like that's who I'm drawn to, who's drawn to me, and they're awesome. So it can get weird to feel like, oh, I see that person at the grocery store, and I'm like, I can't be like, hey, what's up?
Yeah, exactly. But that's also more great advice for therapists, right? That sometimes your ideal client is that person that feels like so natural that you could hang out with them or something, because there's really something you can work with there that feels like there's that intuition and that I'm missing the word, but
Yeah. If I also had a nickel for every client who said, I wish we could just like hang out and like, wish you could just come over. You could come out with me and my friends. We'd have the best time. And to me, that is so validating in terms of
yeah.
the relationship that we have and the rapport that we've built that they feel so comfortable. It's like validation that you're doing a good job here with this, right?
Highest compliment. That's
Yeah.
so true. Yeah, that's great. Hmm. Yeah. Anything else about the whole dating piece that we haven't talked about? I think it's very inspiring for therapists to think about how they could also expand their practices, and do some. coaching in the realm of dating and relationships?
I will say that transitioning or trying to transition to coaching is it's a whole other animal. It is very, very, very different than I imagined it would be. And the thing is that the way I practice as a therapist is quite similar to coaching. I'm very behavioral, very direct, and that's just sort of my style. So it's not vastly different in terms of the
Yeah.
work. It's a little bit different, but um, the coaching, what I think is kind of cool about it is that you can really focus on, one or two issues as opposed to everything. As
Mhm.
a therapist, you never know what you're going to be, dealing with or talking about that day. So with the coaching, I think you can sometimes get a little more specific and stay very clear on what that thing is,
Yeah.
right?
That structure is so nice because then you also see progress within those parameters. That's really reassuring for both you and the client.
I mean, I love homework or assignments, or I have people practice things in between. Like, I want to take this and go out in the world and start to notice, let's say who you're drawn to, or when you start to feel anxious, like, oh, I haven't heard from that guy, so I want to text him. Like, sit in it and do nothing. And how does that feel, right? And increasing your tolerance for discomfort and anxiety, that's the key to a lot of it, and not just in dating, in so many things. We're trying to quiet down that voice by doing something or perseverating, or but if you just sort of welcomed it in, like, okay, come on, do your thing. I'll worry. Let me sit here and worry. It's often better than the whatever you're doing to try and calm that down.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. That's so fun for us to also have a takeaway where we might have a little assignment. Like that's one great assignment. Give us another assignment, Elise. This is they're so good.
Another assignment related to dating, related to practice building.
Let's do one more for dating and then we're going to do one for practice building.
Gosh, the pressure. Okay.
Oh,
The dating. Okay. For dating. Um, okay. Well, I mean, I talked about the must have and the deal breaker list. I mean, having women sit down and really write that out. If you wrote, 5 to 10 things and really, really thought about it, what would that list look like? I think that's one of the most important things that you can do if you're dating.
yeah.
I also think um, starting to look, especially if you're online dating, and it's kind of how people are meeting now. I mean, some people are meeting in real life, which is awesome. Um, but if you are doing online dating, can you be more purposeful in dating? I mean, to actually look at each profile, read through. If you're going to respond to someone, don't generic hey or
Mm,
what's up. Like, really read a profile, like,
yeah.
connect with something, have an actual conversation. And okay, so a couple of tips. This isn't really an assignment. These are more things that would be in my rule book if I had one.
We
Um,
love it. Elise's rule book. Let's go.
okay. All right. Here's what I think. Stop texting between meeting or before meeting. I think
Mhm.
that is, I honestly think that's a big mistake that people are making. So they'll match, and then instead of setting up time to meet for coffee or whatever, they text for 2 weeks. Nonsense. How's your day? They don't even know this person. Like, go and meet them. Let's see if there's a connection. Um, I'm also not a huge fan of sitting across from someone in a restaurant or whatever, because it feels to me, and the feedback I've gotten is very kind of job interviewee.
Mm,
What about doing something fun on a date? Like, maybe you have a policy. I only do outdoor activities on a date, or whatever. We get
right.
coffee and walk, or I don't sit across from people on first dates, or whatever it is that you think.
Mhm.
But to do something that's a little less pressure, a little less
Yeah.
weird, and also something that you would be doing if you weren't meeting this person, so that if he's a dud, you don't feel like, oh, well, there's an afternoon wasted. Like, it
Such
was cool. I got to take a cool walk in the park.
great advice. That's gold. Absolutely.
And with the texting, I think that it creates a false sense of intimacy, and that
Mhm.
people uh, think that they know someone better than they do because they've been texting, again, usually nonsense because they don't really know this person. So you'll, let's say, meet someone for 2 hours and then spend 14 days texting. You think like you've known them for a long time, but you only met them once.
Yeah.
And
You
it's
create a
simply not
fantasy in your
absolutely.
head. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I would cut that out. There's no need to. You don't need to be chatting. You're chatting with someone you don't even know. It doesn't make any sense.
Cut that out. That's so great.
Cut it out. Yeah, that's how I feel. So those
Yeah.
are some tips that I have that I think people should use.
Yes, those are excellent. Absolutely. And yeah, I can just even imagine, right? Like it is so aligned in your whole personal philosophy, right? Like as you were talking about owning boundaries for the private practice, let's just go there, right? Okay. You talked about owning, I don't take insurance. Maybe you own, I don't sit across on a first date. I go for a walk on a first date, take it or leave it.
How refreshing though. I mean, if you were, think about it, if you were dating and someone said that, I'd be like, good for you.
Mhm.
That's unusual. Who does that, right? Like you're
Yeah.
being very intentional about this as opposed to like, sure, we'll meet for dinner and then you're stuck there for 4 hours if you don't like the person, you know? It
Mhm.
just like what feels good to you so that you don't feel like you've wasted time or that you've sat across from 100 different guys in the last month and right? Do something that is of interest to you and invite someone else to be a part of it or not. That's okay. And if they think it's weird, that's fine too. They're not your person.
Yeah. And this is where it comes full circle, and it's again that personal alignment that you have and that you live by, right? Because you're doing this for you, and you're all about prioritizing your self-care and prioritizing, right, what matters to you as an individual for a sustainable life. And that's a great example. And so that's again, think about for yourself, what do you need to prioritize, whether it's in dating or in your private practice or in, your family life or whatever else.
You don't have to apologize for it. You don't have to, nobody has to agree that that it's okay. You need to decide, regardless of what it is. You decide and then you inform or you live that, but you don't ask for permission to live your life.
Yeah.
It's big, big.
It's big. And so I really want to thank you and acknowledge you, Elise, for being here and giving us permission. That's what you've done so beautifully today is giving us permission to be authentic and to have a more fulfilling life and fulfilling practice. And you've given us some great tips, some gold. Hope everybody looks back and makes some notes. So thank you.
You're very, very welcome.
Yeah. Please share with my listeners all the ways people can find out about you because you have beautiful websites, you've got a lot going on, and we'll have it in the show notes. But let's have a look now what's out there for you.
You can find me all over social media, much to my chagrin. I'm doing it, but I'm not loving it. AFC Therapy, my initials, or Coaching with Alyse, Alyse. And you can email me, AFC, what is my email address? AFCtherapy at Gmail, or Coaching with Alyse, Alyse at
Mhm.
Coaching with Alyse. Feel free to reach out, check out my stuff, and it's good. We've got some good stuff going on.
Yes. Yes. Beautiful websites. I especially love coaching with Elise, and I love like all of the if you read the website and all of the text on there, you're going to really come away with an experience of yourself too, and some of the mistakes you've made around dating and places that you might still want to improve on. So I hope you check that out. Also, Elise has fabulous blogs. I've already read several of the blogs in preparation for today, and we didn't even get to talk about everything. But I love the resources that you provide, and also on Instagram, right? Coaching with Elise.
Instagram, TikTok. Uh,
What TikTok? You are with it. Oh my goodness, I love
I'm
it.
hip. I am hip.
You're
Yeah,
so hip.
I'm
That's
all over
great.
the place. So check me out.
Okay, check her out. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much. And everyone, you have that permission from Alyse, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Until then, stay heart centered.